2020 be approved. Kevin, will you move it?
I'll move it. Having a hard time hearing you, Les.
Pat, will you second it?
Pat, second.
Glenda, for or against?
For.
Cheryl?
For.
Dale, not here. Susan?
For.
And I'm for it. Motion carried. In regards to seeing we're doing our meetings this way, is anybody getting any phone calls in regards to from the public there?
Cheryl hasn't got one.
No, I haven't heard anything.
No, I haven't either. It's Glenda.
This is Pat. I haven't heard any complaints. Just Eldon called me last night, but I wasn't unable to take his call.
Well, I talked to Eldon last night. I mean, the only complaint he had was about, apparently he had some property standards thing he filed, and he was surprised it wasn't dealt with last council meeting. That's actually, Eldon gave us a big compliment on the grass cutting going on in Webwood.
I keep driving by that area there, and it looks good there.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has an issue with the place beside his place there.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's township that's our property now. We've reclaimed that, or do you know anything about that?
That's not true.
No, there's a long story behind that there.
Okay, well, you can tell it to me sometime. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I'm just a messenger there.
Okay, in regards to the counts, anybody got any concern?
This is Cheryl. On page 4, who is or what is Polar Distribution Inc.?
That's our dust control.
Calcium.
Sorry, Kim?
It's our calcium. It's the dust control.
Oh, okay, thank
Yeah.
you. I thought it'd be something like that because it was a substantial bill.
For sure.
Yeah, and we got to pay it.
Yeah, I know. I hadn't really seen that name before, so that I recalled, so I just want to double check.
Anybody got any other concerns?
No, not from me.
None here either. None from Glenda.
Okay, good. Be it resolved that items A1 contained in consent agenda be adopted. Glenda, will you move it?
Yes.
Cheryl, you second it?
Yes, I will.
Susan, for or against?
For.
I'm for it. Kevin?
I'm for.
Motion carried. In regards to the 357, 358 applications, did everybody look at that? Anybody got any concerns in regards to that? Don't mention anybody's name here.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, don't mention any names. Just if you got any concerns there.
Well, what was the growth or manifest error on basically on the first one?
Lot size, I think.
What? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's Pat DeLine here, yes. Your
Yeah.
packages included all the information
Yeah.
that you need.
Okay, I didn't. Okay, I got it. Sorry, my mistake. Thank you. No, I don't have any issues with that.
Neither do I.
None from Glenda.
Pat, no issues.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, be it resolved that pursuant to section 357 of the Municipal Act 2001, taxes shall be adjusted for the subject taxation years as per their tax schedule, and further that the 2020 taxes for subject properties adjusted after 2020 final bill. Susan, will you move it?
I'll move it.
Kevin, will you second it?
I will.
Pat, for or against?
Pat in favor.
Glenda?
In favor?
Cheryl?
For.
And I'm for it. Motion carried. Be resolved pursuant to section 358 of Municipal Act 2001, taxes shall be adjusted for the subject taxation years as per the tax schedule. Pat, will you move it?
Pat moves.
Glenda, you second it?
Yes.
Cheryl, you for or against? Susan,
Or,
Kevin,
I'm in favor.
and Pat, you're in favor, eh?
Pat in favor?
Yeah, 9 in favor. Motion carried.
Okay, items A3 to A5 on the agenda were briefly discussed, and council was aware that policies would be drafted and brought forward. So Pat and Ruth can speak to these 3 individual policies, and we do have bylaws to adopt them ready if council so is inclined.
Okay, so Ruth is going to speak to the accounts payable and payments policy.
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
yeah,
Okay, great. Okay, so in regards to the accounts payable and payments policy, it was something council had requested that we look into for the streamlining of our process. We had some input and recommendations from the auditors on what we could do to make this happen. So we put together a new accounts payable and payments policy for you to review. It's pretty straightforward, step by step. Was there any questions that people had in regards to this? It's in the section 4.2 procedures is where we mainly changed the way what was happening with the initialing of the invoices when you're signing the checks and things like that. We found it was very cumbersome, and the auditors suggested that it was kind of repetitive. If all the invoice and everything, you were getting the report that was being, they just said we probably could make a change there. So this is what we're proposing.
Okay, Ruth, that sounds good, dear.
Yeah,
But if you're
I
in,
understand now.
Ruth, if you're running an operation there with only 2 or 3 employees in the office here, you start out in 4.2. Daily mailing is opened by the clerk assistants. Then the clerk assistant gives to the accounting and payroll clerk. And the accounting payroll clerk stamps it and gives it to the department head. And then it goes on, and then it goes down to the treasurer. Is there any way of cutting some of them layers out there and go from one stamp it to the head, department head, then back?
Well, really, that's what it does, Les. Like, the accounts payable clerk stamps it, it goes to the department heads. They have to approve those invoices and review them and quote them. They tell us what accounts they want it to go to. So that's fine. I think what the thing was with all the initialing and that, the treasurer is still going to have to do that, not necessarily the secondary signature signing authority. So, because we're proposing that they're entered, then we pay them, and we're going to propose to send a report to council on once a month for the previous month's payments we have made. That's what we're proposing.
Yeah, as long as you got all the bodies in this office there to fill in positions.
Well,
And
that's why it still has to be stamped and gone to the department heads and the accounts payable clerk and everything to make sure, it's still, there's still some, authorities that are looking at these invoices,
Yeah.
signing off on them.
and
Accountability. Yeah.
And if I may interject, we have to do our best to provide segregation of duties, because that is something that the auditors are looking for. And in order to help to eliminate or mitigate risk of fraud or error.
Yeah.
So by trying to get different people doing different things, then that risk of error or fraud is reduced. And it's just to demonstrate to the auditors that we are doing our best, even though we are a small office and we have limited staff, that we are doing our best to segregate those duties.
That's interesting. I can see that.
I think, this is Pat, I think it's a good procedure, and there's 4 sets of eyes land on every one of the invoices that come in, and the department head signs off, and then it gets paid. That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
well, there's accountability there, and
Right.
That's yeah.
I understand what Les is getting at. Less layers there, but I can understand what the auditors are getting at as well.
Right on.
well, and I think it's protecting the staff too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
They like to have their backs covered also.
Yeah.
That's really not, it's council that is the responsible party here, and we are doing our best to ensure that procedures are in place to make it accountable for council.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Susan here, that sounds fine to me.
Good job on that, lady.
Ruth, there's another concern I got in 4.2.
Sure.
Any purchases over, let's say, $10,000 or $20,000, it should be initialed there by the mayor as well. That way, it's more protection for you people. We've got 50,000 at DSAB.
Yeah,
or
I know what you're saying. So we have our bigger projects are always submitted to council for approval by a separate resolution. Our purchasing policy, Pat, what does it say?
I think up to the treasurer has the authority to approve payment or like expenditures up to $5,000.
That's
Then
been changed.
over, yeah, in the purchasing policy, over $5,000 as the report goes to council. And even now, as if I feel that it is warranted, that even though the purchase price may be under $5,000, if I feel it's warranted, I will request the department head to produce a report and a rationalization about why this particular purchase needs to be made. And then there's other tendering procedures. Anything over $10,000 automatically goes to council.
Yeah, is that
there are
fine?
provisions. Yeah, there are provisions in the purchasing policy
Mm-hmm.
that have that breakdown of dollar values.
Yeah, but I'd like to see it in this policy there and procedures there when we're drafting it there. So anybody off the street says, "Oh, they got a limit at 10,000," and the mayor is responsible for signing off it. I just want to make sure there that everybody's covered there. One line there to say, by the way, the mayor or the designate there will sign off on it there. And that way is more protection as well there for staff.
But last, this is Susan here, if we already have given the approval at council, isn't that kind of giving it double?
Yeah, but are we given approval? That's what I need to make sure.
Well, this is Pat, we already set up a policy to cover this issue, Les.
I agree, Pat. We did that a while back to set that policy up. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking about accounts payable and payable policy. We're making a policy right now. Should that not be included in this policy?
Well, I guess we could put a line that says refer to policy number, whatever that policy is.
Well,
Yeah,
it does
the
state
purchasing
department heads in compliance with the township's purchasing policy. So review, initial, code, and like Pat said, she's responsible to approve purchases over the limit that's set out in the purchasing policy.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking less to make, yeah, we can write that and then to make sure.
As per whatever policy.
Yeah.
We'll just take a look there. If you
Yeah.
think it needs to be in there, please look at it there.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. All it is another layer of protection.
Maybe it could go under 4.3 somewhere.
Anyway, they'll look at that there and then bring it back there. Okay, reserve fund there.
Okay, reserve fund policy. That is something that we've been working on for a little while. We've come up. I had sent you a revision because we needed to add in the landfill closure and post-closure reserve that we had added or established based on the recommendations from the auditors. So I hope everybody got their copy, the revised copy.
Yeah.
I did. Glenda.
Cheryl did.
Yeah, so did I, too.
And, you know, it's pretty straightforward about, you know, the department heads, you know, all the different people that are involved in it. The listing, though, is something that if you wanted to look at, these are ones that are currently in place. Some of these have $0 in them. Some of them have values in them that you get the regular reserves and reserve fund statement every year when we do the financials and at budget time as well. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do. In regards to, I'm just picking out one there right off the bat. The fire reserve, to provide financial and capital projects there can also be used for carrying over operating revenue for the department from the previous years. If a department head there goes under budget, shouldn't it go back into the working reserve instead of going back into the capital there? Because if,
Well, if they have financing for specific capital items and they're not sure if they're going to be able to spend that money, then the money that was allocated in the budget could, in theory, at council's discretion, be put into a reserve for the following year. Say for instance, a fire truck. Okay, they're looking for fire trucks and they're not able to, within the current year, to find one that would be suitable.
Yeah.
So a suggestion would be to take the money that's allocated in the budget for that fire truck, put it into reserve, so that money can be used the following year should they find a fire truck that would be suitable.
that's what we've been doing, has it not?
So far, it hasn't been. If they're under budget, that's fine. Their under budget goes directly into the surplus. So this is why this policy was developed, because there was no clear direction as to how any reserves were to be increased or decreased. Usually at budget time, we would say, okay, this is what we have in reserve, so we'll take some from reserves and we'll apply it to this. But we never really had anything in a policy to state that how we would refund or bring additional funds in, especially if there's something that you know down the road you're going to need to find the money for, like, like fire department or even in recreation or in public works for
So
roads.
that's what we were practicing. We just didn't have a policy to.
That's correct. We did not have a policy statement.
Okay, well, this is good.
This is Pat, because the library had leftover money for how many years that they had to use up?
Because they didn't spend all their capital.
That's right, yeah, because they didn't do the capital projects that they were supposed to do, so they just kept carrying it over.
Mm-hmm. It's basically putting it into a reserve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, now we have a policy to govern that, and that's good.
Right.
It's not just the same old way we did business, but it's actually written in stone, which is good.
Well then,
A lot of the target levels here are at the discretion of council.
Well, of course.
I know we've had a discussion before. What should our reserves level be at? Well, council can make that decision. If they're happy with the levels that they're at, then that's fine. If they know of something coming down in the future that they want to save some money for, and we have lots of big infrastructure projects that we're definitely going to need to be able to fund and not necessarily depend on senior levels of government to fund it. If we have some money that we can set aside for that, it makes it a lot easier at the time of those large expenditures. Okay, we have this money set aside, we'll use some of that, and that it helps to mitigate the amount of money that we need to get from the taxpayers.
And 90% of them projects is in the working capital reserve, which would come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions in regards to that there?
Yeah, this is Cheryl. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
So I'm thinking as part of Parks and Rec Committee, so under general government reserves, you have like Winter Carnival. Could we not rename that as the community celebrations or something like that? So that if there's something else comes, say for instance, we were having Canada Day, there was nothing in the celebrations for that, right? Nothing in the books to cover that. I mean, I know it can go under general government, but or does that come out of Parks and Rec budget?
You know, that normally comes out of general government.
Yeah.
But the Winter Carnival was originally set up. The Carnival Committee was separate,
Mhm.
and they had no bank account, so the township became the keeper
Yeah.
of the fund,
Mhm.
and it was eventually did become a celebration that council endorsed, and so we've just carried that over, and it's strictly been used for any winter carnival.
Yeah.
So could we not call that community events instead of winter carnival?
But then the monies that are raised for the winter carnival after the carnival can get sent somewhere else, and then the carnival doesn't have their money.
Right.
Canada Day gets money from the government, and it's called donation from our township. I think you should just leave it alone.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Recreation Massey Reserves, isn't it?
No,
No,
it's
it's
called
not.
Winter
It's
Winter.
called
Winter
Winter Carnival.
Oh, it's a separate one just for
Yeah.
the carnival. Oh.
And I mean, it is at the discretion of council, so like I'm not worried about it or anything, but
Well, it's money that was raised by the carnival committee.
I realize that, Pat. I'm just saying, should we not have like a fund for community celebrations of some kind, which the Winter Carnival has become? It's the township celebration,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Instead of just, and I realize some of that money's for Winter Carnival. I'm not saying we should spend Winter Carnival money on something else, but I'm saying
No,
just have a budget. You know, when we have people retire, or Volunteer of the Year award, Senior of the Year night, something along those lines. I'm not saying we have to do it all the time, but
Well, that comes out of economic development for volunteer participation night.
well, I'm just using
And
an
this is the-
example.
And we have a donations account
That
too.
our staff was going to be taking care of the winter carnival. All of
Yeah.
those officers and volunteers come out of the community to take care of it.
Yeah,
This was a different year.
yeah, so I realize that. I'm just saying, should we not add more into that reserve than just Winter Carnival? That's all I'm saying.
Cheryl, the celebrations you were speaking about are all part of council's donations budget.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, it's at council's discretion. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. Maybe there should be a name change to represent all our community events that council puts on, July 1st, Winter Carnival, whatnot. I mean, if people make donations towards the Winter Carnival, then we have to segregate that and keep it separate. But
The Susan here, I think it's working fine the way it is. I don't know. I don't see the.
I guess.
If you want to set up a different account, then there's another story.
Yeah.
This is Glenda. I don't believe we have to because we already have a situation where if we want to give money, we can do that. So I don't really think that to add another line item is kind of
another line item.
no, but we already have a system in place now that if we need to endorse or donate or whatever, that we already have something in place. We don't have to play with that. Just makes more work.
Right?
Okay. Pat, in regards to your surplus policy deficit there.
Yes. That was also brought about when I was doing the research on the reserves and the reserve fund policy. This policy for operating surplus and deficit right now, we have no direction as to what we should do with any of those surpluses that we have. So this policy came into play to help maybe build up some of our reserves as well under 4.0 of the policy. Making some suggestions here. Some municipalities that I researched, they have an authorization for the treasurer to transfer a certain percentage of any operating surplus first of all, to the tax rate stabilization reserve, and then another percentage to the working capital reserves or capital assets replacement reserve, and then the remaining percentage can go to other reserves in collaboration with the treasurer and council. And if they decide that they need to set up another reserve, that the authority is there as well. Now, I'm making a suggestion that 30% of the surplus would go to the tax rate stabilization reserve, 40% to the working capital reserve, and 30% to be allocated to other reserves as council sees fit. You can decide on different allocations if you don't like the 30, 40, 30. And then the deficits are to be handled in the policy as they are outlined.
So,
Does anybody have any questions with regards to that?
so in
It
the
gives us direction as to what to do when we have a surplus at the end of the year.
Yeah, so in the past, there it all went to the working fund reserve. And for there was a shortfall, the money come out of the working fund reserve. Is that how we did before?
Yes, we did, but we never had anything written in as a policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a good idea to have these kinds of things so that it gives direction to council and to staff and to the auditors that at the end of the year, if surpluses go in, are divided up amongst the different reserves accordingly.
So we don't have to decide every year. It's just already written down, right?
And each year you will get a report from the treasurer as to what the state of what an expected surplus is and what the allocation would be based on the policy.
I think it's just good accountability. I like it.
Yes, I do too.
Is council prepared to accept those second two policies tonight, or do you want to wait and do them all at once when we make the changes to the accounts payable one?
I don't see why we can't accept those two right now.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, be it resolved, the following bylaws be read a first and second time. Bylaw 2020-27 being a bylaw to adopt a reserves and reserve fund policy. Bylaw 2020-28 being a bylaw to adopt an operating surplus deficit policy. Cheryl, will you move it?
I will move it.
Sue, will you second it?
I'll second it.
Kevin, for or against?
I'm for.
Pat?
In favor?
Linda?
For.
And I'm in favor. Motion carried. Be it resolved, the following bylaws be read a third and final time, passed on from council. Bylaw 2020-27 being a bylaw to adopt a reserve and reserve fund policy. Bylaw 2020-28 being a bylaw to adopt an operating surplus deficit policy. Kevin, will you move it there?
I'll move it.
Pat, will you second it?
That second?
Glenda, for or against?
For.
Cheryl?
For.
Susan?
For.
And I'm for it. Motion carried.
Good job on that, folks.
Thank you.
I like how it defines everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have Pat DeLine and Ruth Claire on the phone dealing with those matters. If it's okay with council, can we jump to D1 because they also worked on those cemetery bylaws and would like to present that to council?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so Pat and I had worked long and hard on this bylaw. Since the township owns and operates 9 cemeteries, when they took them over, a lot of them had their own set of bylaws, and none of them have been updated since before amalgamation in 1998. Like, it hasn't been comprehensive. So that's where we went with this. We just want to make it one bylaw.
I agree.
And we did all the research like we normally do. We looked at hundreds of other bylaws. We have to follow the Funeral, Burial, and Cremation Services Act of 2002 and the Ontario Reg of 3011 that sets out all the specific criteria which the bylaws are required to address. And the BAO actually has a sample bylaw on their website that we've basically followed. So we're doing everything that's required. We're not really going out of the box on any of this stuff. So just wondering what everyone thought of.
In regards to this policy, did you pass it by, or we haven't even talked, we're just talking about all the committees there and boards that are in place there, Walter Community Center Board there, and you pass
No,
it
we
by?
have not.
No? Well, before we pass it,
Did
you got to ask for comment on it. And the other concern I got there in regards to tombstones that are 4 feet high. Didn't most municipalities get rid of a 4 foot high tombstone?
Have I ever heard of one?
Yeah, hasn't everybody got rid of the high ones? Because over years, the base there starts to lean and the tombstone falls over.
I think
Well,
that,
it's not, excuse me, it's not only the height, Les, it's also the width.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it could be 4 feet wide, because it could go over 2 plots. You know, if a couple has 2 plots, they could theoretically have, and most of the plots are the minimum, I think, is 4 feet wide. So if they had a double plot, they would have 8 feet across, and they could theoretically have a large monument that is 4 foot wide. So it's not only the height, it's also the width or the length.
Yeah, but it says there, it says in case of installing an upright monument measuring more than 4 feet in length or 4 feet in height, $200 fee.
Yes, that is in the legislation, in the OREG.
Yeah, but the reason being there, I like going graveyards there and looking there, and when you get a high tombstone there, and over the years, the base starts to lean and the tombstone starts to lean there and they start to fall over.
You are absolutely correct, Les. The majority of monuments are 2 feet and under, but we do have to have something in place to handle something that's larger.
Okay, as long as other people are allowing them, I guess we can't stop them. But
I don't think you can. A lot of the bigger centers don't allow big headstones anymore, but
That's true as well.
right? Because of the upkeep and because they are more prone for damage or whatever,
well,
and for maintenance.
yeah, it makes the graveyard look bad when you got 2 or 3 of them high ones there leaning there, and the rest all look nice.
Mm-hmm.
When something is leaning, the staff usually calls in the guy from the river, I believe, and he comes and repairs things.
Yeah.
He faces them, stands them up straight.
I think that the idea that Matt said about contacting, like, some of the churches that are looking after for their input on this too. Like, for example, I see under markers and monuments number 3, it says only established monument marker companies may supply and install monuments. Individual and homemade monument markers are not permitted. Well, gee, there's some people that can't afford those, and might want to make something a little less expensive. So, I think we need their input before we, give the
Input
okay to
from who?
from
Susan?
like the churches that are involved in, some of the churches still do some of the caretaking and just, they should have some kind of a say. Do you not think so?
The municipality owns the cemeteries.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we maintain.
I don't,
Yeah.
to my understanding, there really isn't any cemetery boards
No.
left.
They
There
all
are some volunteers
fizzled out.
that still help us out, but
Oh, yeah.
the municipality is doing the majority here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we do all the care and maintenance and everything.
Wow.
Like, we have some volunteers that go mark plots for us and things like that, and we do have a volunteer that cuts grass in one of the cemeteries, but everything else is, we contract that out and we
Okay.
take care of it.
But I'm just saying, before we give the okay to this, blanket document, we need to go over it maybe a little bit, and.
Oh, for sure, this is board discussion, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But there has, as far as I just knowing from the monument business that, my former brother-in-law, there have to be parameters on the monuments that are placed because of the upkeep and all of that, and a lot of people put weird things up there, so, you know, you have to kind of keep it in line.
You have some
Yeah,
parameters.
you hit the nail on the head there, Glenda. Like,
Yeah,
I understand some people may not be able to afford it, but I would expect them to have to come forward to council if they.
Yeah, well,
but I mean, there's markers as well that are very inexpensive, like really truly inexpensive. And I've seen even on the reserve here, well, they're raising money for a marker. You know, like there's other avenues to help out. So you know, everybody's trying to help each other. But
And one thing that we need to have further about the parameters of the monuments, our contractor has had to go and repair monuments that have been improperly installed without the proper foundation, and which has caused them to lean or fall over.
mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we have proper guidelines for monument dealers, and also having an established monument dealer do the installation helps to mitigate any liability to the municipality, because they would have proper insurance and WSIB for their workers. If you allow your neighbor to go in and install a monument in the cemetery without proper direction, and that person gets hurt,
well, I still have.
this is all developed in order to help minimize the risk to the municipality.
Yeah.
You need standard guidelines, right, for everyone.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is, I think, 93, this came into being, the municipalities took over, and there's never been any, everybody still has their own little bylaws.
Yeah, exactly, Cheryl.
I think it's time that we got one,
I think it's time to define
Yeah.
everything and have one guideline, and that way there's no question. It's not. People still assume that the churches and all them
right,
have
They
the,
do. That's right.
yes.
but it's not, that's okay.
No. And can I just say, when I came in as a new employee, there would be no way I would know all the history and background and all these little bylaws that, you know, I'd be looking for these bylaws in our cemetery files just to be sure, you don't want to make a mistake for somebody. And it's easier to train new people. And like Pat says, we're liable now for all of these cemeteries for anything that happens.
Well, I think you are doing a great job streamlining everything so that that everybody can understand it, and it's a lot more simpler.
Yeah, thanks, Glenda. Yeah, that's why it needs to be all in one for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, well, so where are you going with this? Are you going to ask for comments on it there and give them to you there? And you're going to ask the committees there, or the boards there that were in place there, if they got any input or?
Okay, I just need to understand who's the committees and boards I'm sending it to.
Well, I know that Walford United there has got a committee there or whatever there, because Austin Clifford is involved in it there, and I know a few others. Use that as an example.
Okay, this is Glenda. I have something to say about this. I understand people should know all of this stuff, but I believe that it should be more of an information session than asking an opinion, because it is not in the hands of that. It's in the hands of the ratepayers in the municipality. So we need to know how they feel, but we have to follow guidelines regardless. So it should be more of an information session and question and answer. That's how I see it. It's an information session with question and answering.
And the bylaw is not in effect once council approves it. It still has to go to the province for final approval.
Right.
Exactly. So an information session is more of what we need right now.
So, and to add to what Kim said, we also have to put an ad in the paper. We have to give notice to the public by way of a newspaper ad. We have to have a sign at each cemetery that these bylaws are being put in place for a period of 4 weeks. And the proof of the notice and pictures of the signs have to be sent to the Bereavement Authority of Ontario along with the bylaw for them to approve it. So there is a notice period, and at any time that people, during those 4 weeks, they can come to the municipality to see the bylaws and ask questions at that point. So to have a separate question and answer period with each of the committees or the churches, I don't know that it's necessary, but if that's what you want, we can reach out to them. I know I have reached out to some of the cemetery churches and not got a response. So,
well, my idea, Pat, and Glenda, was the fact that it was an information session for the whole municipality, not just for each little individual. You could have information sent to them, but just have what you're saying is having it all ready and available, and if they want to ask questions, then fine.
It would be very similar to the Planning Act notification process, where if anybody has any concerns or questions, they call us, we give them the information.
Exactly.
It's all there. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, I still think that they should mail out at least a copy of it to just inform them to those user groups or churches or whoever.
Well, the thing is, you can't mail out the copy if it's not approved yet. This is what you want to have, but it has to be approved. It has to be, the signage has to be put up, all this other stuff. So it's not an approval, it's just stating what's going to be happening.
Yeah, it's just tentative, yeah.
Yeah.
We can work on that.
Yep. I agree that we can definitely, especially people that have been involved in the cemeteries for years, to send it out to them. But it is council's decision, and the municipality does own these cemeteries now. So.
And it is to standardize things at every cemetery.
That's right.
Yeah. Right.
And like I said, we took a sample bylaw from the BAO, and it's kind of in line with what is required, and we weren't putting in anything that was. Yeah, this is kind of how cemeteries are, cemetery bylaws are written, really.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other municipalities that have adopted those bylaws as well.
This is Pat Natchuk. Can I get a word in, please? A couple of years ago, we had issues with the Mennonites wanting to make their own tombstones, and they erected them in the graveyards also. It happened over, I believe, on River Road. So we have to address that, or I don't know what those rules would apply, or it's just something that I remember that happening, and there was quite a fight over it.
They actually came to council with and sought council's permission,
right,
to make those monuments, and council did give them permission to do so.
Yeah, but when they're erected,
there's only been one or two that I've known of since that time.
Yeah, but when they're erected, are they erected the way that it will have to be done now according to your policy that you've developed?
They still have to come in with a marker permit application and pay the appropriate fee.
Okay, Pat, that's fine. As long as I just wanted to, get that out.
They always have in the bylaw. Sorry, everyone. It does state that all monuments and markers shall be constructed of bronze or natural stone, granite, and then special consideration for monuments not constructed from the above materials must be submitted to the cemetery operator for approval. So we're not saying no, but it would have to go through the approval process.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Two concerns. In regards to the Mennonites there's a better job they do than the people that we hire. Their tomb base is in there, the ground 4 feet there, and their tombstone is in the base 2 feet. So there's no way that tombstone is going to fall over. And in regards to sending it to all the organizations, if you council can remember the trouble we had with the Walford Community Center and that fence at the front, they wanted wrought iron, they wanted page wire, they wanted chain link. So if we give each group a chance there to comment before we pass this there, we'll get a better response from the ratepayers.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, I agree, Les. You know what? At the beginning of this process, I had all those people in mind. And then after you put all this work into it and everything, it's kind of like, let's just get it to council. We kind of forget. But yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's only fair that.
yeah, I know you'd agree there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, it's important to hear from them, but we have to follow guidelines. But it's
Absolutely.
great to
Okay.
hear.
Don't wanna let it get bogged down in the
Oh.
dirt either.
Okay, Pat, Ruth, you got anything else for tonight?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
Good job on the cemetery. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Good night,
Good
guys.
night.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks.
Okay,
Good
good
night.
night.
Is Paul on?
Paul Panisar, are you on?
Hello.
Paul?
Hi, I'm on the line.
Hi, Paul Panisar, Fire Chief, is joining us.
We're jumping to B1 there. Paul, did you look at my letter?
Yes, I did. I actually, I seen that on Monday. I spoke to Kim about that. And so, I mean, I don't know all the details about what this person's seen. I've never seen a 100-meter windrow burning in the township. What I did explain to Kim is that, I mean, I've seen it piled up when they're getting ready to burn. The ones that do have those kind of properties, they've actually came to us first and talked to us and made provisions to have a slightly larger pile, but it's not just brush, it's more dirt and stumps. We've accommodated, you know, on a as needed basis with greater setbacks, with them having, you know, ample water supply, machinery on site, somebody there with smaller piles of those windrows that's more dirt and et cetera, that does exceed those 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters. But it's not just a pile of brush that's 100 meters long. I've never seen it in the township. If somebody's seen that in the township, they should be filing a complaint or calling 911 for a fire, because we'd be out there. So I mean, the concerns are valid. Yes, the some of the piles are larger, but it's not just anyone that applies for a permit that can just burn at random. Those are specific one-offs that we've worked with a few residents in the township to accommodate their, and they've got, you know, the ample property to do that. So I don't know if that addresses that letter for you, or if there's an issue and somebody's got piles like that and they're burning, then please forward that information to me afterwards so that the appropriate officer from that area can go see that person. But I mean, myself, I've never seen a 100-meter windrow burning in the township.
Well, I ain't picking on anybody there tonight, but drive out there on Government Road there, you'll see 2 or 3 burnings going on in that 100-meter windrow there. And with the wind, hold it, please,
We're working with Joan Ross on Government Road.
Yeah, well, I got a problem there. When you set that brush pile on fire and we have wind there this summer like we're having there, and if you look around, all our spruce are dying and our balsam, that ever gets wind there and it starts to take off, where are we? The municipality is going to be liable for allowing it. And you name me a municipality that is allowing this to go on in the summer there, and I'll check myself, because there's none of them. French River does not allow it there. They're into this clearing of land. And where is anybody else allowing it? Nobody. You shouldn't be able to
So, I
burn.
mean, going forward, if you want me to establish the 2-meter guideline for everybody and anybody, that's fine. That can be done. But I'm saying, like, that was only done because it's not just a pile of brush, and there's adequate resources, there's the spacing and the water supply available by them. It's not just anybody getting a permit and setting a larger 20-foot pile of brush on their own. I've never seen that in the township.
Well, I'm totally against it there, because we're the only municipalities, unless you can start naming them there, that allows this to go on in the summertime. And what the summer we're having and the heat.
Yeah, so Mayor, I fully understand what you're saying. If that's something that council wants to pass and change the bylaw so that there's no burning in the summer, then that would be a change in the bylaw, and you guys can address it at that point. I'm only going by what the bylaw states. They are allowed to burn right now as the bylaw is written, right?
Well, that's why I got it on the agenda there. I want the input of council. Is council in favor?
Yeah, so if you guys want to adopt that change, I'm for, you know, whatever changes you guys want to put forward and pass. I'm only going by what's out there now. I can't tell them to stop burning totally unless, you know, the conditions permit as far as the fire ban goes. But the bylaw does say they are allowed to have
had weather like this, extreme.
No, so, yeah, so
And
that needs to be reviewed. That's something different
Yeah.
than the complaint that I'm seeing, that people are burning bigger piles that, are bigger than the permit. I'm just addressing,
But
there is a
whether
couple that
they're
are
having is contributing to concerns regarding
Yeah,
how that
absolutely.
could get.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of two different issues here right now. One's whether you want to allow burning period in the time frame. The other is the size of the piles that are burning right now. So that's news to me that you're looking at totally wiping out burning for the township. So that wasn't part of that letter, right?
If we want to accommodate that, then, I mean, there's no reason why it can't be done in the spring and the fall, conditions permitting. The summertime is dangerous, and it's gonna get worse. It's hot,
Yeah, the seasons are getting warmer, so if it's something that you want to review to do, that's fine. But that's what I'm saying is that I didn't know that was the agenda item. I thought it was the complaint on the size of the piles that are burning right now. So that's what I was addressing, right?
Well, I think that's what it was, this Glenda. I think that's what it was, but, seeing that, like our weather is a little bit extreme, so depending on circumstances, we should have something in the bylaw to, revoke or implement something, you know what I mean? Depending on the weather, obviously.
Yeah, sorry, I gotta go. I'll address this after.
Okay, well, I think we should.
Sorry, I got a fire call.
Okay. Bye, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. I think we should suspend, large brush burning.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Kevin. We can,
Yeah.
we should have the right to do that, really,
For
for the
now,
safety
yeah,
of
well, that's what I'm
everybody.
saying. Let's do it, because, like, I can understand campfires, whatever, until the M&R dictates differently, but, burning brush piles in the middle of summer when it's 90 degrees and the wind's blowing, that's crazy.
It is. I think it's throwing caution to the wind, so to speak.
Yeah, so to
Okay, we
speak.
can draft
And
an
let's not
amendment.
forget all our firemen are volunteers, so
Well,
why have unnecessary calls?
And when it's this hot, that's hard on our men, our
Exactly.
firefighters.
They have to use all that gear and, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
We'll
Yeah.
do an amendment for the
well,
next
and
meeting.
It's also protection of life and property as
Yeah.
well,
And yeah, like people live near it.
Well, and we say, yes, common sense, but believe me.
Apparently that doesn't apply sometimes.
No, I agree.
So we have to make rules that don't appeal to everyone, but
So what do we want to do here? Do we want to limit it to 2 meters? Do we want to
I don't think there
eliminate it
should be
in the
any.
months of July and August? Well, what do we want to do here?
I don't think that we have to change the parameters of the size. I think what we need to do and look at is if we can suspend the operation due to adverse weather conditions. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I agree, Glenda. When
I
Yeah.
agree.
I
dry
don't
like
think we have to
this,
play with all the other numbers.
suspend.
Now
Yeah.
you're going to contend with adverse weather conditions. You're better off just to say it's banned from this date to that date for large piles.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Because
They
then
never
you're
use
gonna
birds
have,
till winter,
then you're gonna
Years
have to
ago,
worry.
right?
On the ground. Go on the ground.
and
Well,
And then who's gonna determine the extreme weather and whether it's allowed or not?
Exactly. Snow on the ground, then they can burn their large piles.
that's a good idea.
So
That
for
works.
what time period do you want that for?
Yeah.
and what they're going to do is they're going to ask for rationale, and the rationale is that we are protecting our ratepayers, we are protecting our volunteer firefighters, our community, and that's a rationale that's easy.
and the air we breathe
Yeah.
gets
And
thrown
the
in on
homes
that.
we live in.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter which road you drive in there's long brush piles there waiting to be burned.
Oh, I know.
So I'm not picking on just one road, I'm picking on everybody.
That makes good sense to me. Wait till there's snow on the ground.
Yeah.
Point blank.
Yeah.
So do you want this to,
And, the fire chief can say, well, we're working with them and they have the equipment and say it's being, that's really paying attention to what they're doing. Like, I'm not trying to take anything away from our fire department, but
Why should they be
it's
put
still at
in
the
this position?
discretion of the landowner. And,
Yeah.
again, common sense doesn't always prevail, so.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so Kim's gonna get a resolution there for the next meeting there. She'll forward it out there before the next meeting there and see if everybody agrees and
Okay.
So it'll be amendment to the bylaw. What time period do you want to see this non-burning? Do you want it June to August or?
Yeah,
I'd even move it back further.
I don't want,
we're talking snow on the ground,
Right,
Okay.
April to,
so let's say May to
May to
October,
the
I don't know.
May till the 1st of October, 1st of May, 1st of October.
Well, October, there's no snow.
No, and
Oh,
October
yes,
be
there is.
warm and dry, we've had a few,
yeah,
yeah, because thank God we got rain this spring and there would have been lots of people out burning grass there. So,
mhm.
and I don't like our volunteers being abused.
I'm in favor of May the 1st to November 1st.
December 1st,
Yeah, snow comes late now.
Yeah. Maybe get some feedback from, the fire chief.
I'll talk to him and I'll draft something and forward it to you for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about it again,
Okay.
Yeah.
see what you come up with.
Sure.
Is there a fire ban on right now?
No, there isn't.
No. Is he
Probably
thinking about
will
it,
be
do you know? Because everybody around us has one
I
on.
know.
We're pretty close, I'm sure.
He was going to, it's being monitored. I talked to Paul earlier this week and he may put one on for open burning if it continues like this, so.
Yeah, like, it's scary out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The grass is crunchy right now. That's how dry it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
like, and everybody around us is like on full ban, like,
Yeah, I'll talk with him again in the morning on this.
thank you.
Okay, A6 Council Technology. In regards to them tablets I talked about the last meeting there, anybody got any concerns, thought about it after?
Yeah, I have a couple of concerns. First of all, like I'm thinking, most of us have computers and internet. Like, what's the cost gonna be to do this?
We can do it for $480 per unit per counselor.
That is nothing. We all may have internet and computers, but I don't have a camera on my computer. I use my phone for most of my teleconferences right now because I don't have a camera and I don't have that capacity. So, we don't all have superb stuff.
So we're looking at the Samsung Galaxy Tab 6 or S6. It's a 10.4 inch screen. It comes with the book cover. It's got 4 gigabytes of memory, 64 gigabytes drive. It's got the cameras.
Okay, I'll tell you something.
Okay.
Tablets, they don't work very well for stuff like this. Speaking from experience from somebody at Laurentian University that tried it, we'd be much better off to go with a Chromebook. It's not a full Windows computer, but it's a Chromebook computer. It's a folding laptop. You can get a Hewlett-Packard Chromebook for less than $300. It's a much more versatile than a tablet. I mean, if we're going to go this way, and there's no licensing like there would be with a Windows device, so it's something you might want to look at. The tablet, that's another story. I don't think that's a wise choice.
The town of Spanish is using it for the second term of council, so they have had good luck with them.
I think they're great, actually, because you can be seen and you can actually scroll through all your information. You don't have to have paper of anything. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, you don't with a Chromebook either.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a Chromebook's just a better option for at half the price, probably.
Well, we have a resolution that approves the purchase of 7 tablets for council at an upset limit of $500 each. We can continue to do some research on the Chromebooks as well. But if you want to, I mean, get this process in place, it's going to take some time to get them in and to get the email addresses established for each one of you, because you will each have a Sables-Spanish address.
You know, we're embracing technology, and that's good. And if some of us feel we're not connected the way we should be, then that's fine. But I think a Chromebook is a much superior alternative than a Samsung tablet. But that's just my personal opinion. Look into it, though. I mean, I'm for it. If people feel they're underserved for that, because it's the way of the future.
This is Pat. I do not have unlimited internet.
Neither do I.
Exactly. Yeah.
How much is this gonna cost me?
Well, do you have cell service where you are, Pat?
I have a cell phone, yes.
Okay, and does it work at your house?
My cell phone, yes.
Well, then you can get internet through Bell Turbo Hub for about
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know how much it costs?
It's not unlimited though, Kevin.
No, it's not unlimited, and it costs, if I go over, it costs me a lot.
I have the Bell Turbo Hub.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, but I don't get unlimited here where I am.
No, I don't get unlimited either, but
No.
for the sake of some documents for a council meeting and whatnot, that's not going to use up anything. That won't use up 2 gigs a month. And you can get 20 or 40 gigs a month on your Turbo Hub. So, I mean, what we're going to use communicating for council is peanuts.
But does Pat have internet at all?
Yeah, well, she says she has cell service. So if you have cell service, then you can get internet service.
I have a hub, but
you do? Okay.
I use it very little, and if I go over my allotted time,
I know. They'll take you to the cleaners for it, yeah.
That's over double what I would normally pay.
Well, then maybe we should look at having some kind of internet allowance for council then.
I was thinking the same thing, Kevin, as Glenda. I was thinking to add that if we're going to do this, because this is going to be the new norm for us. So, yeah.
Well, that'll be great.
Well, let's look at it this way. You are getting a mileage allowance currently that you don't have to come to meetings for, so you could put that towards your internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't want a tablet there, you can come and get your paper there. We've had their internet paid at DSAB, and I fought to get rid of that, because if you want to sit on the board, it's your expense for internet.
Yeah.
So, no gosh darn way am I going to vote for in favor there, is find internet there for people.
No, what Kevin said, or Kim, whoever said it there, to transfer, because we're not going to the meeting, physically going, so that money, we're already getting paid to do that.
I mean, I don't have a problem. I have internet, I have enough. I watch to make sure I don't go over if I'm streaming or something there. It's like, but I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to deal with council stuff online because I don't have enough internet. I'll make sure I have enough internet.
Okay. So,
just like the telephone was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
okay, I got a resolution here. Be it resolved that we approve the purchase of 7 tablets for council members at an upset limit of $500 each. Susan, will you move it?
I'll move it.
Kevin,
Are
will
we
you,
gonna, are we set on the tablets or what?
No, I'll do some research.
she'll do some research there on this.
Okay, that's fine, that's good, that's all I want.
Yeah, Kevin, will you move it there?
Susan's
I'll
moving it.
second, yeah.
Okay. Pat, are you for or against? Brenda?
For,
Cheryl?
Or,
And I'm for it there. Susan?
or,
Okay. And Kevin, you're for it?
Yes, for it, yes.
Okay. Motion carried.
And Anne had prepared a draft technology policy that would go with the Chromebook or the tablets when they are issued to council. So
Yeah.
we'll have this prepared for the next meeting as well.
okay.
Very good.
Does anybody have any, did anybody have any problem with that policy?
it's pretty standard, I think.
Yeah. The tablets for municipal purposes, not for.
That's right.
Yeah, specifically for that.
That's right.
Okay, surplus property. The property at 175 Spruce Street in Massey has been vested in the name of the township as a result of the municipal tax sale process under the Municipal Act. As outlined
Could you
in
tell me where that is then?
175 Spruce Street, Massey, that is on the north end of northeast quarter of Massey. It is a vacant property. There is an old abandoned residence on it, and it went for tax sale. There was no bidders. It now belongs to the municipality. And we had outlined in a previous report that council had two options once it was vested in our name. We can clean up the property at a cost to the municipality, which can be added to the account. We can declare the property surplus and ask for parties to submit bids. Once council accept a bid, any loss on the sale of the property would be written off. Or we could leave the property in its current state, declare it surplus, and entertain bids from interested parties. Again, any loss on the sale of the property would be written off. The new owner would be responsible to clean up the property at their discretion. I believe that it is, if we were to, it's number 2, leave the property in its current state. I believe that its current state is what deterred people from having any interest in it under the municipal tax sale process. So it's being recommended that we proceed with option 1 and request for proposals be sent out for the cleanup of the property to its vacant condition. And then we can proceed with the process for sale of property.
I agree with that for sure.
I think it costs us to clean it up.
So I had given council a copy of the RFP just to let you know what the provisions and conditions would be in there for the cleanup of that land.
Any other comment? Okay, be it resolved that attached request for proposals be sent to local contractors for cleanup of the property on 175 Spruce Street, Massey, to vacate clean condition. Pat, will you move it?
Matt moved it.
Glenda, will you second it?
Yes.
Cheryl, for or against?
or,
Susan?
For.
And I'm for it. Kevin?
I'm for it.
Motion carried. Pat.
And there's another one that will do the RFP.
Okay, here's for the RFP. Be it resolved that the municipal property 175 Spruce Street described as Salter Section 25, Plan D 267, Unit 3, Parcel 3-1 is hereby declared surplus. That upon final cleanup of the said property, the procedure for the sale of the real property shall be commenced as per the Bylaw 2009-36, a bylaw establishing policies respecting the sale of the property. Susan, will you move it?
I will move that, yeah.
Cheryl, will you second it?
yes, I will.
Glenda, for or against?
For,
Pat?
Pat in favor.
Kevin?
I'm in favor.
And I'm in favor. Motion carried.
At the last council meeting, council had requested that the COVID-19 stage 2 reopening be kept on the agenda for any updates, any further discussion. Since the last meeting, there hasn't been a whole lot of change for our area, except for retail businesses and so on now having to require customers be wearing masks when they enter their premises. As far as the municipality goes, the government is introducing a COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act, and it's going to address different areas that may help municipalities restart the economy and so on. There was a teleconference this afternoon with the Minister of Municipal Affairs as well as Premier Ford. And basically, it's just making some amendments and streamlining to existing regulations and rules that we have to follow. One of them being there's changes to the Building Code Act. There's others for planning and so on. So until that legislation is finalized, then we still don't have any change.
Anybody got any comment there?
I'm here.
No. Steady as she goes, I guess.
That's right.
Well, changing times in the States right now because the numbers are going up there, and I hope they keep going down in Canada.
Yeah, we're doing okay, but can't let our guard down too much.
No, we've got to stay on top of this. In regards to grass cutting there, did everybody read that memo I sent out there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not happy there with some properties there in built up areas there, and that lot is a prime example. There's maybe cut once a year, and it's a total disgrace for anybody going up the Tote Road, and it's a disgrace to anybody living in the community here. So what is your input here? What are your thoughts?
Who owns the property?
We're not at liberty to give personal information out.
We do not own the property.
We do not.
All right. It is the landowner's responsibility.
Correct?
Do we have like a standard letter we send to said people, said landowners, like especially pertaining to grass cutting?
Well, most of that is contained within our property standards bylaw,
Right.
but as you know, the property standards bylaw is initiated and enforced on the receipt of a signed written complaint.
Right.
I have made a suggestion through resolutions that council could amend the property standards bylaw to allow the officer to approach any landowner where there's an excessive growth, where excessive growth is evident, to require that the yard or the lawn be maintained and cut, and that, you know, within the certain time, if it's not done, we'll do it, and costs will be put onto the tax roll. Now that's
I thought that was already in our.
I looked, and there's nothing in there that provides for anything like that besides the written complaint.
But I think that's a great idea, though, Kim.
Yeah.
Because then
I
at
agree.
least, then at least administration, when we're made aware of it, we can write the letter. We could say, hey, you know, this really needs to get done. Pursuant to the property standards bylaw, you have, you know, so many days to complete.
Well, I think we should do that for the grass cutting, but I also think we should do that for the junkyard too, because it's pathetic. There's still nothing being done about the junkyards around town. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, and Les did write an excellent letter on that last council meeting.
Yeah.
Never really discussed, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind what was indicated in the last discussion was that we have a very part-time officer working on this, and if you start giving him blanket authority there's not going to be enough time to, in the week for all the duties that have to be done, which is building priority.
And we got lots of,
There is priorities, but there's also letters that can be sent
Yeah, for sure.
with
But
regards, you know.
But what I'm saying is that once,
Means to clean up your property
Yeah.
or.
or that's what I'm saying is we can get the letter out, but then if there's no compliance, then there's that work and effort and time it takes to follow up with it and to issue the orders.
Let's see where we go with it, you know what I mean?
Well, it's not happening now, so it's gotta happen sometime. You know, this stuff's been dragging on for years, so
Yeah.
it needs to happen.
okay, I'll read the resolution there and then we will, somebody can comment if they want. Be resolved that staff be directed to draft an amendment to the property standards bylaw, providing the officer may approach a landowner directly where excessive growth is evident, to require that the yard lawn shall be maintained, and that if not done, the township will arrange for the grass to be cut and the property owner will be charged for the service. Any comment?
What's the definition of excessive growth? That's what you're gonna get from whoever you're dealing with.
Then we put
What's the definition of excessive growth?
we will put a definition in the bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
And the other thing is, where in the township? You know, is it just in Massey, Webwood, and Walford? Is it in Lee Valley like that, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, it should be in built-up areas there. If you got one lot, let's say Beauchamp subdivision with 2 feet of grass there, you got to deal with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if you get out of hand, you could have a fire.
So urban areas.
Beauchamp subdivision is not an urban area.
Or residential. I don't know.
I'm residential.
Yeah.
It makes it bad there when you got 24 neighbors around you there, got nice yards, and you got one there that don't care.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, there's a few around here.
We'll start with that anyway and see how we,
It's a step forward.
right? Maybe we'll take one step at a time.
Okay, Glenda, will you move it?
Yes, I will.
Cheryl, will you second it?
Yes.
Susan, for or against?
Or
And I'm for it. Kevin?
I'm for it.
Pat?
Back in favor.
Motion carried.
That's all we have for open session.
Anybody got anything else for open session before we go into closed session?
yes, I do. I just it's Glenda quickly about some animal control issues while my dogs are barking in the background. That's funny. But anyway, I've had 4 calls of complaints. They've been trying to get a hold of Renwood Kennels. There's been actual incidents where dogs have been injured by these dogs that are roaming around, and a person was injured. So we need to get a hold of Renwood Kennels. I've been looking through the bylaws and.
If the situation you just explained is what I'm thinking of, there was action and there was legal action taken.
Okay, well, I was just making sure that you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
He's in our municipality. I've seen him there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw him the other day.
Yeah. So somebody's going to be injured again, and you can't have that.
Okay, any other concerns, anybody?
Oh, just the property standards issues I brought up at the beginning of the meeting there. We'll talk about that later on.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, the resolution being resolved, we move into closed session to consider personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local boards, employees respecting staffing positions. Cheryl, will you move it?
Yes, I will.
Susie, you second it?
I'll second it.
Kevin, for or against?
I'm for.
Pat?
In favor.
Linda?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. Motion carried.